Kevin Lambert, welcome. Thanks for joining us. You recently released a project called funbegins.com. Just introduce yourself, tell us who you are to begin with.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Megan. I really appreciate the opportunity. Jordan behind the scenes here. My name is Kevin Lambert. I've worked for the federal government for the last 6 years, almost 6 years, in a PR role mostly. So I'm the guy who writes the press releases and works with our congressional partners and our other stakeholders in rural and economic development, community development, small business development, home ownership and repair, those kinds of programs. And so as I've kind of gotten more experience and seen how more projects are built from the efforts and energy of people who have this amazing skill set and comprehensive knowledge set of how complex grant and loan systems, products, and other funding vehicles work. They do their job so well. And during the shutdown, when I had a lot of time on my hands, I decided to put into effect and actually build what had been suggested to me in the past as something that would be very useful to any number of municipalities, rural development, nonprofits, economic development entities like regional planning commissions, libraries, museums, schools, individuals, anybody who's looking for a starting point to get into that very complex world of federal and state funding. So this was just a block of time that I had available, and I think I got to where I wanted to get. As I was telling you before we got on, this is really just the architectural phase of the project. Now I'm putting it out to our stakeholders in the state, friends and family as well, who've been very supportive of me as I've kind of obsessed over this thing. There are any number of ways to go with something like this. We have 49 other state calendars to build, so I think it could be a good source of revenue for a nonprofit who funds this work. Not necessarily me. I don't necessarily want to do this kind of work anymore. It's very tedious. But I think it could serve the state as a way to kind of cement and establish the people in our state as the intellectual powerhouses and pros who know the most about development and planning. So research
Kevin,
and resource and planning.
Kevin, it sounds like you're a guy with some experience who has knowledge and put together a resource. And the problem that you're solving is, tell me, what's the problem that you're solving? What are folks having a hard time with?
Well, I think planning for application deadlines, pre-application deadlines, knowing what grants are out there, where to even start in the process
let's jump into the website. I'm sharing it here, and we can see you're at fundbegins.com. This is the world's first universal funding calendar. And you have this interesting acronym called BEGINS, which outlines, and I think Jordan's probably bringing that up in there, right? This outlines that BEGINS stands for businesses, enterprises, governments, individuals, nonprofits, and schools. And when we click over to the calendar, which is really kind of amazing, you have two calendars right now, a state of Vermont calendar and the federal calendar. And you pulled this information. I'm curious how you pulled this information together. Where did you source this? And I opened this up and I have, would you call this a Gantt chart? Is this called a kind of or just a
it's really just a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And it's all in alphabetical order. It's linked out in that third column there. So all the program pages are linked to the program's titles. And then the eligibility, as you said, Megan, the 6 buckets are represented. 1 or 6 out of the 6 are represented in that gray column. And then the application deadlines are those A's. And then when you see a P, that's either a letter of intent or a pre-application, or sometimes it's a pitch event. Sometimes grant programs offer you the opportunity to get up on stage and pitch to people. So that kind of incorporates those types of grant offerings. Now, any number of caveats and qualifiers here. And one is that not all of these programs are going to be active. I included programs back to 2024 because some of them are dependent on different funding cycles and administrations, and I could foresee them coming back into play at a future date. Now, if you're talking about recent legislation that I know won't be repeated in its form, so say the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, those programs that are closed out, I didn't include them because I don't see them coming back. So there is some interpretation here. There's some subjectivity, even the eligibility. There will be any number of kind of unrefined elements that could go into interpreting, say, the letter G. Now that would include municipalities, libraries, museums, school districts, and not all of those people in those entities are going to be looking for the same grant or loan funding, but I would rely on them to be in the same geography or the geography that matters to them in the map of funding products that's before them. And that's especially important in the federal calendar because that one has over 1,500 unique records. So there's a lot to look at. And this again is an unrefined product. It could be better, I'm sure. I'm sure there are programs that I'm missing. This is essentially a snapshot of the last few months of my activity. I actually started tinkering with this idea in February. And this is always going to be different day to day. New programs probably started today, probably started yesterday that I'm not aware of, that I need to incorporate. The Leahy Lake Champlain Basin, those folks are really active and have some wonderful programs, and they're coming on and offline all the time. For instance, that's just one group of funders that I've seen who would take some time to track and accurately reflect their opening and closing dates. Now, you asked how this would help, and really I think the most elusive information to track online is when a given program opens. So it's not the application deadline so much as it is when these things are posted. And then for a grant writer or a municipal planner, you can not just be aware of the deadline, but when that grant will come online in the next year, in the subsequent year.
Allowing you to prepare.
I think that's where utility will come in.
Yeah, that allows folks to prepare before they see the deadline in their inbox.
Correct.
By the way, it's a month away. Yeah. How much of our services, like our everyday services in your mind, rely on funding sources like this, rely on these grant programs? Is there a sense of that from the work that you've done?
Well, yeah, that use of the word universal is intentional. And it's a very insightful question, Megan, because I want it to reflect the fact that so much of our municipal and economic development and evolution depends on federal resources. And even at the state level, a funder itself in a very big capacity, the state portfolio is huge. It is often subsidized and quasi-partnered with the federal entities. So
yeah, a lot of these like the Lake Champlain Basin program are federal funds funneled through their project. Yeah. SARE
right. And you'll
grants.
see that I doubled up on some of the federal sources in the state calendar.
Yeah.
I included rural development because it is so essential in economic development. So yes, that's exactly right. We have any number of programs in there that have federal sources or are direct federal funders. Yep.
Yeah, so you're talking about, I mean, so much of our basic infrastructure, from farms to water quality to health and well-being, agriculture, housing programs, relies on federal funding, also private funding, but really relies on good grant development, grant management, grant writing skills. And I guess that's the part that is, how is this helping how is this helping folks, and what are you hearing? Have you gotten feedback already from people about this?
Yeah, I talked to some of my friends at the Brattleboro Development Credit Corp recently. They're very excited about it. I talked to a partner at Champlain Valley Economic Development Office, and she was very excited about it. I've talked to Sanders folks, Welch's folks, Balance folks, and the Office of the Treasury. They all seem to be very excited and, at least supportive. To be honest with you, Megan, I've scored grants and I've applied for grants. So I've been on both sides of the equation. I'm involved in my local municipality in that sense. And of course, my work lets me kind of scan the battlefield there, though. I rely on the people who really know their stuff in economic development to tell me how it's useful. And it may not be. It may not be. And even if it's not, the sunk cost is nothing to me, because it has been such an education to learn about these different programs and the resources that are available. It's more a testament to my sanity during the shutdown than anything. And if it gives some people a good starting point to help other people find the resources they need, then that's it for me. And
so what's the plan to sustain this? Obviously, this has got to be kept up to date. There's a lot of work that goes into this. Mm-hmm. And I think on your front page or in your release, you talk, this has not been developed using AI, or research tools that defy AI, you say, so this is a human-made endeavor. How do you sustain this? Where does this go next?
Well, what's really exciting about this that I've really that I didn't know would be a result is that the calendar is easily sortable from its raw file, so that you can just do a week by week sort. You can base a newsletter off of that, an update of things coming, the deadlines coming a week, 2 week, 3, 4 weeks out. That would be manageable by one person, I think, because it would involve maybe 12 to 20 records each week. And to go into those grant programs, present them as something that people could reliably know when they're due and when they start, from week to week, from month to month. I think that would be a very useful service that could be offered by, again, a consortium of entities, relevant entities in Vermont. I don't have a plan for updating it, but I know that updating it for one person is feasible. There are 1,800 unique records that have gone into this project. So that's between Vermont and the federal government. These are competitive products. They're not the formula products. Those are done between the various agencies and the federal government, so they wouldn't be really open to the public. But the way to update new programs, I mean, grants.gov is a great resource. You can get, I think, a lot of good results from that resource. I've listed those in the Learn tab there on the website, Megan. Some of the good search engines in that little vignette there. On the left is a calendar tutorial that gives you a breakdown of the schematic so that you can see what the structures and symbols of each entry and grant type would be. So that multi-year funding, you're going to see a lot of that with the that would be like the bio research, so the NIH, the National Science Foundation, and that would have the little numbers signifying when the grant was put into the field, and the application deadlines would signify when that grant funding is ending. So that would be like a 3 to 6 year grant. Yeah. And then the top grants are the more conventional style. You'll see one defined window there with a closed period and an open period. And then there are two types of rolling grant applications. One would be open year-round without a deadline. You can apply any time. And the other one would be rolling with deadlines, meaning you can work on your paperwork and the grant application is going to be the same, but there are deadlines for when it has to be turned in. So there's a number of ways to present that, to render it, and mine may not be the best, but I wanted to provide a structure and a framework so that people could give me guidance on how they think we could maybe automate it with some technical help, or form a state level consortium that would fund one person for the work. Maybe it's a grant product itself that we need to go after. You know, I don't know. But I do want some feedback. I want some engagement. And the people I trust the most in the world are the Vermonters in economic and rural development. They're just solid people who have really good ideas, are very innovative. And yeah, that's a master contacts list. So if you go in there, you click on the Vermont one, Megan, and this is another proprietary system that I developed. In the columns E through H are abbreviations for staggered and descending in general to more specific entities that you can unpack in that filter key tab that's next to the contacts. So it starts from most general to most specific, and this is a way you can target your communications. Say if you wanted to get in touch with I don't know, museums in the Northeast County or the Northeast Kingdom, you could specify counties, Essex, Orleans, and Caledonia, and then specify entity as library, and then you'd have a good email list there. There's about 1,500 records there. It's updated as of the beginning of December, so if there has been any changeover in personnel or public contact information or email address, the way I keep this one current is when I send a blast out, I'll get the bounce back emails and then I'll correct those and make sure that who's in the right place is in the right slot.
So is this tool something that you've built and you want other folks to take this and move from here, or is this something that you're trying to parlay into a project that you would then run and continue to provide?
Well, I mean, I have a day job, and I like my job, and I'm very good at what I do, and my passion is writing, so I want to continue to write, and this is, again, I think you're getting the idea that it's not specifically formulated in a way to advance it in any kind of open market sense. I want to offer it as a beta test to our Vermont stakeholders to see if it may be viable as something to continue forward. Yep. I've done what I can with the time that I have, but I do have a day job. I have basketball season, and it's right now I'm at a point where I can display it for ideas, for feedback, and really that's the phase that I'm at,
Yeah.
Megan. And if you have ideas for how to advance it, and the really I'm looking for ideas from anybody.
Yeah.
Should it be a subscription product that is a for-profit business? Should it be a nonprofit that offers this as a free service and maybe generates its revenue from building these similar calendars for other 49 states out there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we are in a transactional universe, aren't we? And so it is interesting to see a project built like this on just sort of interest, passion, knowledge, without the transactional return. And then it's hard to understand how it will move forward without having that in the universe that we're in now. I mean, I think of Common Good Vermont, of course, as a potential partner. Vermont Community Foundation. I think that a lot of folks would find this. I look at it as somebody who's thinking about, how to sustain the work that we do here at CCTV using grants. And, one of the things there is like, how many grants, how often, what's the cycle that you're going to go on? Because it takes a lot to, one, write those grants and then manage those grants and then meet the grant obligations. I think having calendars like this, and also a calendar like this, just to understand, for the public to get a picture both of what goes into the work that we do. And it's a pretty nifty project. And I'm curious, and we'll look forward to see where it goes from here. I guess if you had just, 3 minutes, you're in your elevator. It's a long elevator, the Empire State Building elevator. You're going up, and somebody says, "Oh, who are you, and what's the project? What have you had fun with during the pandemic?" What are you going to tell them?
Well, I'll say, some people did a lot more reading. Some people undertook a new hobby. Some people went to the bar. I really dove behind my computer and tried to make a tool that I could share with the people, professionally speaking, I admire more than anyone in the world, and who I feel are doing the most important work in the world. So I guess I would say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. I just want to be a person who is known in Vermont as an innovator, and as a giver, and as somebody who represents the values of this place. It's the best place in the world. So I think that's it, Megan. I have any number of personal ambitions for doing certain things with my life that involve, the necessity of making money. But I've never been a great business person, and I don't really think that's my strength. I think my strength is as a creator and a collaborator. And, if somebody has a great business idea and thinks that can work, and we can get funding and seed funding and angel funding and, rounds and rounds of, red tape and being in the red and investing for 10 years until we actually make a profit, then okay. But, in the meantime, I want people to be able to use it and to benefit from it. So this is my gesture in that regard, I suppose.
Great. And so fundbegins.com for folks to noodle around on those calendars, both the state calendar and the federal calendar. You click here and you can view these charts, spreadsheets really, that are well annotated with links directly out of those charts. And then if you see missing resources, or you want to reach out to Kevin about how to learn more or how to inform him, you have this great easy form for folks to fill out and email you and get in touch.
Yeah.
Sound right? Sound about right, Kevin?
That's it. That's great. Thank you.
So Kevin Lambert, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing this information with us today. And hope you have a good rest of the dark winter season. We're just a few weeks out before the light turns and we begin to see spring slowly emerging over the next 4 months. I think of spring as actually starting on the 22nd of December. And slowly the light brings us back into the summer months. So thanks so much for sharing this with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for your incredibly important work.